Regular session of Borough Council will come to order for Tuesday, April 19th, 2022, and we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
President Miller.
Here.
Vice President Anthony. Virtually. Sort of. Councilwoman Anderson. Here. Councilman Booker.
Here.
Councilman Jerry.
Here.
Councilwoman Martin. Here. Councilman O'Neill.
Here.
Mayor Ritter.
Here.
Board that are not affirmed.
Here.
Nope. Steve Meyer. Here. Manager Szewski.
Here.
We have four.
Thank you. Moving on to approval of the agenda. Are there any items to add or remove from the consent agenda or the regular agenda? Or any items to move from the consent agenda to the regular agenda or vice versa? Seeing none, are there any amendments or changes to the proposed minutes? Seeing none, is there a motion for the approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Mr. Barrett moves. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Iverson seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. The agenda is approved. On the citizens' comment. Do we have any citizens' comment? Seeing none, we'll move on to the mayor's report.
Thank you. March 26th, the residents of Mechanicsburg and DMP held demo day at the square. The town watched as the building came down, making way for a public gathering place. 26th, delivering a citation and a key to the city from the mayor's office to Reagan Pecos at his Eagle Scout ceremony. Reagan is a member of Troop 195 and earned 48 merit badges. April 2nd, National Library Week with the help of the Cookie Monster, read to children at the Joseph T. Simpson Library. Third, Sue Urban of the Joseph T. Simpson Library celebrated her birthday at Beard's Gathering Place. Fourth, Union Church trustees met with discussion and action on painting the building inside and the outside trim. Tonight, the Mechanicsburg Volunteer Fire Department held its first annual appreciation banquet at the Mechanicsburg Club. A very pleasant and informative evening. The 16th, DMP's Earth Day Festival on the Square in South Market Street. Great turnout. We received letters from young students wanting to know about Mechanicsburg. They're fun to read and answer and to report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Manager's report.
I was asked to attend the Earth Day celebration this past Saturday. So since my electric bike seemed to be a hit, a lot of people were asking questions about it. I was there with the Museum Association from the Automobile Club. He had a lot of mopeds, a lot of old ones that were actually pretty cool looking. So Pam wanted to do this is the way things are moving, progressing from moped to electric bicycles. So, but that was that. The mayor and I also got a bunch of letters from some students that were really interesting to ask. They asked some interesting questions, and they're learning about this. Not from Mechanicsburg School District though.
No.
Some of them had Enola addresses, I'm thinking Cumberland Valley or East Pennsboro. So, but yeah, they were interesting questions. They're learning a lot, so they were fun. That's a break from the daily grind, so to speak. So they're working on the pool. We have a leak detector that's coming in. They're going to try to see what they can find with that, but we did have a quote for cutting some concrete if we have to open it up to get down in there and look for it. So as soon as we get the final quote from the leak detector, we'll get up there and see what we can do with it. So that's where we're at right now.
Okay. Moving on to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Mr. Beard moves.
I'll second.
Mr. Booker seconds. Any discussion? Seeing none? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Motion passes. The consent agenda items are approved. Moving on to the regular agenda, Finance Administration Ordinance. Mr. Anthony?
Yes, thank you very much. Can the group hear me well?
Yes.
Awesome, thank you. So, thanks for allowing me to attend in this telephonic way due to some surgeries I'm going through. First, I just want to compliment the treasurer on the updated report with more data, more information for us to review. Second, and the agenda is a review of the PFM information. So based on the council's desire to move forward with financing, to acquire financing, PFM is putting together a package for us, which will, I believe you will have in front of you. So what they're doing is they're going to go out for an RFP to find the best program for us based on our desires. And I think it's page 7 or 8. I've lost it now because I have other things up. It has a timeline, and that for us, just so that you know, they'll be coming back to us on May 17th. I just want to highlight that part. May 17th being the day they'll come back to us with the results of the RFP to talk us through options for us to choose and vote on moving forward, which will allow for us to have access to the funds sometime in mid to late June, which will line up with our engineers' capability of putting together a list for the things that we're going to use that money for. So just wanted to make sure that was in front of you. Happy to address questions or have questions answered for you, but PFM will be in a month to talk us through it as well. That's all I have unless there are questions.
That May 17th date, that is also a municipal primary. Did we move our meeting for that night?
Yeah, we did.
We advertised
Sarah and I were
it,
just
yeah.
talking about that right before the meeting. We advertised it in November of last year that it would be moved until the fourth Tuesday of the month.
Okay.
So the 24th, I think, is the date.
So moving from May 17th to May 24th.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's important for them to note, John.
I'll reach out to them and let them know.
Is everyone comfortable with moving forward with having PFM go out for the RFP for the process to start?
Yes.
Okay, good. It sounds like we have a clear to go, so we'll keep the process moving and then we'll look for that RFP to come back.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Moving on, municipal and community outreach, Mr. O'Neill.
Mr. President, sorry, point of order. Do we have something under administration? Can I?
Oh, sure, if you want to address something.
Thank you so much. Just wanted to ask Borough Manager, did we move forward, I don't see it on the agenda, did we move forward with the 2 resolutions that we were working on?
We never got any information on that.
I was told that the office had the information.
I got information on the basketball one, but I did not get any information on the
So we don't have the basketball resolution this evening?
No.
Okay. So we'd like to have both of those for next meeting, and if you need information, please feel free to reach out to me as soon as you can, and I'll try to reach out to you as well.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Moving on to municipal and community outreach, Mr. O'Neill.
Yes, we put in the website project, which is underway. Our contractor revised was given the questionnaire submitted by our website team. We're waiting to hear back from them on next steps and progress. They had asked for some photos from the borough so we can enhance the new website with those photos. We are considering contracting a professional photographer for that work because we feel that those kind of photos would be important to promote and enhance the overall project. So we're waiting on that decision as well.
Sure, I'll just add, I did reach out to a photographer in town, and I broke down the needs, I thought, of what the, project was to the photographer, and I broke it down into three separate distinct categories. One was our immediate needs, the other was our long-term needs, and then the other was other services that they could provide, such as headshots or, things like that, as an ongoing basis as needed. I think it would be great to establish a relationship with an in-town photographer. For the immediate needs, which include pictures of downtown, pictures of the parks, pictures of the new development, pictures of, any other sites in town that would be scenic or visually, that would add visually to the website. I included that in the immediate needs. She estimated that it would take her about 2 hours' time, and that would be, that stock of photography would also include the editing, and we would have the copyright, the license to use the photos, and she estimated that would be about $400. So if council feels okay with that, I don't think we need to take official action, but if you give the go-ahead, we could give her the go-ahead to proceed on that and get the photos taken care of, so we could get the website.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Thanks. That's all.
All right. Community and economic development, Mr. Wary.
So we have no report.
Under this, I think we should try to set a date. Let's kind of get together on a date and see what we think for the
Comprehensive plan.
comprehensive plan. So, does everyone have their calendars available? Can we
And we had some emails going back and forth, and I think
try to take?
Councilman O'Neill had a conflict on the first date that was presented.
Yes. So, what works? Maybe the first or second week in May. Yeah, we should go tomorrow morning. Okay, so the 5th is out. The 4th.
Or go to 12.
I can do the 12th. I think there's a shade tree meeting on the 12th as well.
Environmental advisory and shade tree management. On the 12th? Yeah. What about the 11th?
11th works for me.
Councilman O'Neill?
Yes.
Councilman Martin? 11th?
Is that good for you? Yes, Mr. Weaver. Yes. Mr. Anthony?
Engagement report hung up.
Would the 11th work for you? May?
May 11th
Yes.
is not a good time for me. I have an event that evening.
Okay. What date would work for you that week, or the following?
Thank you. I would say, Monday, the 9th would work. Also, Thursday the 12th, and, actually, how about the 17th? I mean, we already have that. I guess that's election day, so we can't really make that a day to meet, right?
That's right.
The 9th works for me.
Does the 9th work?
The 9th works for me.
Everybody is nodding in agreement, the 9th works.
Monday the 9th.
Yes, Monday the 9th.
What time?
Let's start early, 6,
Location?
here.
Council chambers.
I think we have to advertise that.
Who else do we want in attendance?
Should we ask EPD to join us for that? or do we want to just go through it
It might
ourselves?
be nice to go through it ourselves without EPD, but is there anyone else that, someone else in attendance?
Would it be worthwhile to meet for an hour and go through it, and then if we have questions, ask her, or just thinking that if going through it leads to questions, it would be nice to have the answers right away. But,
It would, I think there was some sense that it was a bit overwhelming the last time they were here, especially for those of us that are newer. And I don't know if an hour of time with the same type of comment that was offered last time, it might muddy the waters a little bit further.
right. How about we don't make, it would not be a presentation by her, just questions.
I would think that would be better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And then maybe a little bit of time after EPD, if they had a 30-minute period of question and answer, and then we had a 30-minute after, for a total of a 2-hour meeting at most, to unmuddy whatever waters are muddied during the 30 minutes. Maybe 6 or 7 o'clock EPD.
That's good, and then I think maybe the goal would be to, figure out next steps then after that meeting.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Let me know what you need from me, and, I mean, we'll advertise it, of course, but whatever materials you need from me, the comprehensive plan, whatever. I mean, I have some background stuff from 2007 when we did it, but, that was a long time ago with a lot of information, a lot of old information, so.
Yes.
So I think, Mr. Manager, that it would be nice to have you present if you're able to do that, because you have a great deal of institutional knowledge. If there could be a very succinct overview of the history of the comprehensive plan in plain language, I think that would be very helpful to the newer council members.
Okay.
Maybe a 10 to 15-minute introductory overview.
Yeah, that's it. 2.5 years of history in 10 minutes, we'll do what we can.
Totally understand that. I mean, it's monumental, but
It is a very big project, and to get it in the 20 minutes to half hour that Carolyn spoke at the last meeting, or when she was here, it's a difficult task, especially as long as with that meeting was that night. That was a marathon meeting, and to go into that kind of detail that you could have went into with her here, nobody was prepared for that down there, so.
Yeah, and I think she spoke at a higher level than we needed to be presented at. We needed to be speaking on our level.
Yeah, well, this is what she does for a living. This is her
And we don't.
second nature, yeah.
It was almost a foreign language.
I will do what I can to bridge that between the two so that everybody can try to get on the same page.
And the other thing too, if I may, if you have anything you feel, I know that your time is at premium, I'm very much aware of that. And if the council president sees fit to ask you to set some time aside, anything that you could put in place in writing prior to that meeting, a 1-page, the vocabulary was even difficult for us. But I would ask the council president would be kind enough to make a decision about the appropriateness of that.
Well, I think that there may be some resources available. I would reach out to PSAB or maybe see what they have available that,
Solicitor Cassidy sent a very good link that I provided to everybody, but there's let me see if I can find the executive session, or the executive summary, because it was very good, it was very plain language, and it summed up the point of the comprehensive plan and some of the background. It didn't go into the depths of, we were out every Saturday checking parking lots and stuff like that. It gave some of the background of the information, how it was gathered, how it was put together.
I think also a primer on comprehensive plans, why they're important.
Yes.
The language behind them.
Okay.
Maybe Tim Wire could
Give us another one.
Could provide some resources or be available.
And that is the 9th, right? Yeah, you're getting into baseball season for Tim now, so. We'll see, let me reach out to him, because Tim is very good.
I mean, just know of a resource like,
Yeah,
that we could,
I'll reach out to Carolyn too, and see if there's any,
she may know.
Yep.
So, yeah.
okay,
Thank you very much.
yep.
Okay. Public Works and Safety, Mr. Bucher.
We have the, first item there, the action to direct borough staff to submit a letter of intent and application for the Walk to Work program, attachment 3.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Booth, Mr. George makes the motion, Ms. Martin, second.
I second.
Any discussion? I think it's really worthwhile to go out, I'll just say, I think it's really worthwhile that we attempt to go out for this. We have to decide, I don't think we have to specifically mention what we want in the letter of application, or since one isn't even required, it's just suggested, for the letter of intent anyway. But that we look for an active transportation plan or a Vision Zero policy. So I don't know what everybody else thought about that. Mr. Booker, were you going to say?
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, I know, at previous, comp plan discussions, walkability was something that was important to the majority of council, so I think, any way we can get some extra funding to make that a priority, I think speaks volumes to our priorities.
And I think it's great to do this also while we're looking at the comprehensive plan, because the active transportation plan runs concurrently and can go with our comprehensive plan. So I think it's a good fit for what we're trying to do right now. Is there any way, Roger, do you feel like you have enough time available to do this? Is there any way that we need to assist you? Anything we can do?
On that point, before the manager answers, is this something that can be, if the time is an issue, is this something that can be put in the hands of someone like Tug or someone that does this type of writing well and has a very strong interest in it?
That's a good question.
I mean, Tug's very good at the recreational one, DCNR, stuff like that. I don't know what she would.
I'm not
This
sure.
is actually going with the Department of Health. I don't know if there's any.
I'm not sure if there'd be a conflict of interest for Mr. Wardle working at the Department of Health.
There may be. But let me reach out to Nate.
Write the application.
Yeah, let me reach out to Nate and see if he can make a suggestion as to, what's going on with that. But, I mean, for the most part, at the level, I read through this, for the most part, there's some things in here that I think I'm gonna reach out for other people to help with, and Nate's probably gonna be one of the ones I'm gonna pull on.
Ron, you had your hand.
I'm not 100% on this work, but I think Nate now works for PEMA, not Department of Health. I think he now might work for PEMA.
I think we'll check on it.
Yeah.
Why don't I check into that once?
I think it wouldn't be a bad idea to find someone who can spearhead the program and move paperwork forward, knowing that the manager's office is just very overwhelmed by all of the things the council is asking him to do at the moment.
Right.
And I think it'd be nice to have someone who's very devoted and has the time to.
So, Manager Sisirski, you would have our support if we could find someone that you could delegate this to.
All right, let me reach out to Nate and see if he's got any suggestions too, because Nate would, being at the Department of Health, he would have seen some of this stuff coming in.
And he may know a resource to, for assistance with how to apply. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Motion passes. After Parks and Recreation, Chairwoman Ward.
I just wanted to just kind of give you guys a heads up, the next meeting, Chief, will be, preparing a presentation in regards to some, requests for some, police, equipment, we'll say. So just kind of get your brain rolling with that. I know, one thing I, shared openly is like, I want to make sure we set our police force up for success, and I think this would be something that, I'm excited to have her share about.
Along that line, we've equipped all of our officers with their own body camera. It ties in with the cameras that are already in the cars. And we actually got a really good price for these, and when these get upgraded by the company, they're gonna switch them out for free. So, that's a pretty good deal. Everybody has their own, so.
Is that the first time they upgrade, or is it every time?
First. They don't think they're upgrading very fast.
Do they keep them on all the time, or just like when there's stuff going on?
We have a policy telling them when they have to have them on.
Okay.
Now, they wear them all the time. Lots of them take them off before they run into the restroom, so. But it's easy to tell when they're on. This one's broken, we're sending it back to the company. It's easy to tell when they're on. There's some of you guys use a stealth, but there's a light on here that's blue. But if you don't want that light on there, you can turn it off. So they have to turn it on certain times. And most of them turn them on every time they have contact with somebody in the public, like on a complaint, so.
Chairman Booker, is that going to be in our regular committee meeting, or is that happening in?
The presentation will be at our next regular committee meeting, which would be next, we'll get you some more information for that, but, would be at our next meeting.
Thursday.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good.
Anything else?
No, this one is.
Sorry, I jumped the gun.
No worries. By the way, Chief, 3 is my favorite number.
Sure.
Okay, so the rec board did meet, April 12th. We had a couple of guests. We had Ms. Erin Anderson, who, is a citizen who's just interested in learning more about the pool and getting involved in any fundraising, opportunities for the pool. So the rec board sort of put together a little committee, a fundraising committee, if you will, and it's chaired by Ellen. What's Ellen's last name?
Galinsky.
Wilson.
Wilson.
Ellen Galinsky Wilson. Anyway, she is going to reach out to Erin Anderson, and they are going to have meetings about possible fundraising for the pool. The swim team coach, Mike Glumack, was also there. He had a few requests, and they were taken care of in our consent agenda, and they were to hang the banners to have additional pool time for MSC at the outside pool. Due to the construction at the high school, they won't have access to the pool easily, the indoor pool. So usually they do, I think, Tuesdays and Fridays at the outdoor pool, and then the other 3 days of the week at the indoor pool at the high school. So they're going to do 2 additional days, so a total of 4 days at the outdoor pool. And also they are going to purchase a shed. MSC is going to purchase the shed. That's going to replace the 2 sheds that are currently beside the north pool, and that's going to run, I think, Mr. Gumack said about $10,000. So what a wonderful gift that they are giving us. They will use, and also we will be able to use the shed. Tanya, she let us know that Big Spring is hosting a lifeguarding course, May 6th and 7th. The cost for that course is $40, and there will be bus transportation from the borough out to Big Spring. So hopefully they can get some lifeguards interested in that, as they're still in desperate need. she tells us that, they need 20 to 24 guards, to have a successful and safe season at the outdoor pool. All the 2021 guards have been called personally by rec staff, manager Sue, really, and they've only gotten 5 that said they're going to return. So they're sort of brainstorming things they can do to help entice previous guards to come back, asking them why they're not coming back. Many of them just got new jobs. We were trying to think as the rec board together, trying to think of maybe some tangible things that we can offer to these kids that are lifeguarding for us. Tanya Brown did let us know that we are like the only pool in the area that doesn't supply suits to the lifeguards. But I know that there was an issue in the past with suits, so we were thinking maybe buying them their fanny pack that they need, or a sweatshirt that they can wear on cool days, or maybe giving them a choice. So last year, we had given a bonuses out if the guards worked the entire season and had no call-offs, and it didn't really deter call-offs super much. So we're thinking, sometimes when you're a kid, you'd rather have something tangible, because in the moment, that bonus at the end of the year, when you really want today off, it doesn't matter to you, right? They live in the now. Bilingual signs will be purchased for the pool that will state the pool rules. That's going to cost about a total of $1,200, $1,230. That will be a gift from the Mechanicsburg School District. And also, Tanya would like to offer puddle jumpers, which are like life preservers, life jackets, I want to say, for non-swimmers, and have them available at the pool for like a daily rental, that you could leave your keys as collateral to borrow a puddle jumper. And that would also be a gift from the Mechanicsburg School District. One of the reasons why we're looking into that is because we had so many saves last season at the pool. They were like 50 or more saves by our lifeguards, which is astronomical compared to other seasons. So, they're going to the parks. Think and Binder is supposed to get the most attention this spring. Hopefully we're going to get some log benches in there with the help of the tech students using their sawmill and their labor. And just sort of freshen things up a little bit, poor thing. The bathrooms are still locked, yes? Yes, because they've been locked because of the TikTok challenge, where you're supposed to go in and film yourself ruining bathrooms. Hopefully that's over, but we'll be working on getting the bathrooms open again. And also the contract for the pool repair was brought to the meeting, and it turns out that'll be about $1,500 to get the patches to fix the fiberglass on the pool, and that is being paid for by anonymous citizen donors, so that will not come out of borough budget money. And I think that's what happened at the rec board meeting. Any questions? Did I do okay, Roger?
Yeah.
Anything you'd like to add?
The quote that came from fixing the pool, I was kind of questioning where is the crack that's supposed to fix? Is that one, or is that fixing the entire slide?
I think it was just, I don't know, one, I think, but I would have to double check on that.
All right.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
My understanding was that it was to fix the cracks that were preventing the slide from being usable. So I think it was just the cracks that were critical to the reopening of the slide. The other question, though, was the deck.
Right.
And Manager Szewski, have we had any movement on the deck? We're
going to try to get up there with a ladder, but that's about the extent of what we can do with that to try to put that piece down. There's a few other issues with the deck that we got to look at, and that's the friction stuff. I mentioned some of that at the rec meeting. So there's we can get the slide open. So the slide's not be the problem with the pool this year, if there's any problems with the pool. That's gonna be the lifeguards, the same as what we're having across the board.
So I'm glad to hear you say that the slide is not gonna prevent opening, and we're gonna get it open. Thank you very much, and thank you to the highway department as well for their efforts on the decking. I know that the Parks and Rec board meeting, and, Councilman Martin did an excellent job of recapping the content of that meeting, which was about a 2-hour meeting. You had been asked, I think, by that group about the fire department using their boom truck, which I wasn't sure that was a reasonable request. Did you follow up with the chief?
We mentioned something about chief, but I know that putting that fire truck in center field of the baseball field to try to do that is not wise, especially with how it has to, how it has to go out over at an angle.
Did the chief
try to get that
on this or not?
No, I didn't talk to the chief about it. It's not something that would work.
The reason I asked is that you had said you were going to follow up with the chief.
I'm gonna try to follow up with him, yeah.
Okay. So at our next meeting, you'll have a report on that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Or, in the alternative, a solution to the deck issue, which you just, I think, indicated would not be an issue.
We can get up there. The deck issue, the deck issue wasn't my call last year. That was the head lifeguard's call.
Yeah, I'm not referring to last year.
But this is why the deck was shut down, because there's a sliver of a movement on one of the panels, which they all move because they're all fiberglass. So, I mean, it's a piece that fell out from underneath there that holds the deck down. The deck sits on top of the I-beams.
And this is a rivet, you said?
Yeah, no, it's a bolt.
A bolt. So that bolt can now be repaired?
We can try to get up there to fix it. I mean, you're going 30 feet in the air with no way to set up a ladder decently.
I'm sorry. I thought I just heard you say you were gonna be.
We're gonna try. We're gonna try with a ladder.
Okay.
But to try to set the ladder up, we're gonna have to be very careful how we do it.
So I think caution should always be used. I think that safety is always paramount, but I want to hear a conclusive, this is how we're going to be able to fix this, and we can or cannot do it. Are we going to hear that at our next meeting?
We'll do what we can.
We need to know, because of the time it's taking.
I understand that.
Okay, I'll be asking the question again. Okay, I would very much appreciate.
I have an answer for you. My question tonight was to clarify which crack this was supposed to fix, because there's multiple ones that slide is delaminated.
Okay, but we are under the impression, and please correct us if we're wrong, that there is one specific crack that caused that slide to be closed. And
There was one that cut a kid's shoulder last year, yes.
And
they closed the slide and then reported that to us.
So if that crack is repaired, you're indicating that the slide can be reopened safely at this point, is that correct?
I have to look at the other cracks that I have photographs of, yes.
If you have photographs, have you not looked at them?
Yeah, I looked at them. There's other cracks in there. This is why I say, is this quote, because this quote was done unbeknownst to me, outside of the borough knowing about it. And I don't know what was talked about, I don't know what was said at that meeting, and I don't know if this is to repair the entire.
I think the reason that the quote was done is because the slide has been broken since July of last year.
Okay.
Let's not go backwards. Next meeting, I think many of us would like to know whether the slide is going to be open for the season, and what you see as the reasons specifically that it wouldn't be, if you think it wouldn't be.
All right.
Okay? Councilor Martin, I don't want to step on your toes.
If I could, have you contacted the person that submitted the quote, the company that the quote is from?
No, I just got it Thursday of last week.
Okay. So perhaps it would be a good idea at this time to contact them to schedule the repair. And at that particular time, you could find out which crack it's for,
Okay.
and what their plans are, what specifically the quote is dealing with.
Okay.
And sign the contract, which needs to be done, I understand.
And we are going to, we did approve. We did approve that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. In the consent agenda.
Will they honor the price because it's past the 30 days? I guess we'll have to ask that.
I'll have to reach out to them, yeah.
Yeah, we offer that.
I mean, it's not very money. Whatever the cost is being paid for by citizens, so.
It was the borough that needs to sign the contract.
Right.
The contract is with the borough for either warranty or liability, it's a combination of both.
How do you wanna do that with the inspection? You had mentioned before, you didn't feel that me, even though I'm certified by the Department of Ag, would be appropriate to inspect that. That slide is, I'm the inspector of record on that slide, and the aqua.
Did we reach out to anybody that might be able to do the
No, I didn't, we kinda left that up in the air last time as to what we were gonna do with that.
I don't think we left it up in the air. I think the council president made it clear that we wanted to have an outside inspection.
Okay, I will reach out to the Department of Ag and see who they have available to do it.
I think what we indicated too, if I'm not mistaken, I could be, is we were gonna reach out to the neighboring municipalities and find out who they used, which would be much faster, I think.
I think speaking with Tanya Brown, each of the other municipalities also have their own internal person that is certified, like Roger is, through the borough, from the ag.
Was it
Your inspection.
Was it your intent to reach out to one of them to do the inspection?
No, I did not intend to do that.
Okay.
Just in this circumstance, because the borough will be doing the work on it, it might be a good idea to go out and get someone from outside to inspect the slide. Just to protect us as the borough and the residents and the patrons who are using the slide. So.
Okay. They're probably going to come in and do an entire inspection from top to bottom, so not just the repair work.
What does a one-time inspection cost?
About $600 for the slide.
For the slide or for the entire pool?
For the slide,
You're saying that inspection for the entire slide?
yes.
Yes, okay.
I think that's all I have. Anybody have anything else?
We have the action items, if you wanna call the action item.
Oh,
I can do that.
I have my glasses on. I'll do it, just because I'm my glasses on. Action on the request from the March 1st, 2022 memo from the South Mountain Trolley Greenway, attachment 4.
Okay, trying to think how, did we reach out at all to Rupert Horn and,
They're here.
South Mountain Trolley Greenway about the items we discussed at the last meeting?
They generated the list of the items we discussed at the last meeting.
We went through this.
Mm-hmm.
Fine, here in a minute. Discussion on items with the South Mountain Trolley Greenway memo dated March 1st, 2022. President Miller stated that council would review the 6 requests for discussion only at this meeting and make recommendations for action at the next meeting. Which I recall, I thought that we would connect with them and ask you if you needed official action from us. Did you need official action from us tonight on these 6, or can we just give you our direction on the 6 and then?
I'm Ben Lightsville, sent the memo with Rupert Horn. And however you want to approach, we can go point by point or however you want to do it. We're just here, Dave Meyer and myself are here to answer any questions you might have about those to give you any kind of clarity, so.
Sure, we'll go through, point by point, and I'll basically summarize what we discussed at the last meeting, and then if you have anything to add, we can move forward. So, the first one is consider authorizing borough staff to work with members of the study committee to prepare a formal offer to Norfolk Southern to acquire the 4.41 acres. So that, I don't need to read the rest of it, we know what it is. So at the last meeting, it was discussed, what is requested is already being done and can be approved with the caveat that they follow whichever the solicitor recommends. So this is, apparently, we're already moving forward on this because we gave direction to the solicitor to engage with Norfolk Southern.
Okay.
So we agree with it, and
Okay.
we already have directed the solicitor to move forward on that.
Great, thank you. Good.
2 is consider authorizing the $6,000 in acquisition funding to match in-hand DCNR funding and proposed funding from Cumberland County. At the last meeting, council is in support of the project, but we are waiting on additional information, so I think we didn't want to commit to the $6,000 at this time,
Okay.
but that we would be willing to do so in the future, pending the results of the solicitor's success in negotiation with Norfolk Southern. In other words, we didn't want to commit to a dollar amount if Norfolk Southern would offer less for the right of way or for the land.
Okay, if the price somehow changed.
Yes.
Yeah,
Is that something you speak to?
I mean, I guess the issue, like, if we make a formal, the big thing is that most of the money is coming from DCNR, half of it, which will come out of the current contract that the borough has, so it's really great that you're agreeing to proceed in that way. In order to use the DCNR funds, we have to have match funding, so we have to come up with that. So if it's $35,500, we have to come up with $17,750 to match the DCNR funds.
Right.
So we would, if we made that offer, we would need to have money allocated that in the event they accepted it, we wouldn't be, that's the only issue with that. But I mean, there could be other avenues.
Our angle was to start from a lower number.
Okay.
Than 35. That in the negotiation process, we wouldn't give away, we wouldn't give away what
the appraisal was.
What the appraisal was.
Okay.
But,
okay, understood.
Yeah. So, but we're not opposed, and correct me if Council if I'm wrong, we're not opposed to eventually contributing to that. We just did not settle on an amount.
Okay.
So.
The only thing I would throw in there about, and I totally get that, is that the deadline for the Cumberland County grant, so if we were going to eventually go for that compilation of funds, is coming up, I think, at the end of June. So if we were going to go that route, we would have to apply for that grant, too.
What would be the deadline for you to know from us on that amount in order to apply for that grant?
I mean, if I'll have to double check on the exact due date for that Cumberland, for the land partnerships grant program that the county has, and they pretty much encourage to apply for that 6,000 match. But from what I remember, completing those grants on behalf of the borough in the past, and for Silver Spring, they're not overly complicated. So in a couple weeks, hopefully, hopefully it wouldn't be a rough week for me personally, but because essentially in the past that's how it worked, is that the Friends Group have completed the grants, the borough reviews them and hits the submit button on those. Just let you know.
Can the money be used for anything other than acquisition of the land?
Yeah, I mean, that program has a pretty wide use for the acquisition to protect land. We got some of that money in the past, both for when we worked with Silver Spring and Mechanicsburg Borough in our phases of the feasibility study. I'm sure you could match it with future Department of Health funds. I was just looking at the grant guideline document. It's a pretty extensive list of uses for that.
So is it possible to apply for the full grant and not to lock us into a particular purchase price for land acquisition, but rather to have that money be able to roll into another acceptable use for the grant money?
That would probably be a question for the grant manager of the county, Stephanie Williams, if she'd be okay with that. I mean, I know with DCNR money, they've been pretty comfortable with us using it in different ways. That bulk that's sitting back at DCNR initially was awarded to the borough for the feasibility study, but they are willing to repurpose it for potential acquisition. So, I don't want to speak to the county, I think that they may be able to be flexible, but.
Yeah. I mean, every time we talk to the county, they just want to get a feeling from the municipalities of support. Like right now, it's a big question in their mind whether Mechanicsburg Borough really supports this project or not. So coming out with a strong statement would help to reassure them that, they're putting money into it, something that you are going to support.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm a little bit new to the process that you're speaking of. I think it's project great, by the way, and thank you very much for the efforts that you're making. It must be very frustrating at times. But you're looking for a match of 17.5, correct? A total match of 17.5.
Yeah,
so with 35,000.
17,750.
17,750.
Yeah.
And that can come from any municipality.
Correct. It just has to be local to match state funding.
Right. And so Monroe has chosen not to contribute anything at this time.
I would say that's correct. Yeah.
And Silver Spring has contributed how much?
They're going to vote on it. They're supposed to vote on it next Wednesday. Was my understanding from them. Actually, I got an email today from their Parks and Rec to let him know tomorrow morning what the result of this meeting was. So.
And what are the other matching funds? I read your documentation, but you're getting how much from the county?
So we were intending as part of this package to apply for 6 from the county, 6 from Silver Spring, and hopefully 6 from the borough, which then all of that can then be used to get the match from DC.
17,550.
Yeah.
Is Silver Spring willing to go in more, or other jurisdictions willing to go in more or not?
I would say probably, Carl Mockemer was there, the president of the Board of Supervisors was at the last meeting we had, and he, they only have like 500 feet of the trail, so he just felt like it would be hard for them to go more than, take a third of, do more than just a third of it. But he wanted to convey that he was going to strongly support, them contributing $6,000 towards this, so.
And Monroe has not been part of the discussions for this acquisition project because these 2 parcels are only in Mechanicsburg Borough and only Silver Spring. So that's why we have not asked them to contribute to it.
And if I'm remembering correctly, it's largely Mechanicsburg Borough?
For this acquisition, yeah. For these 4 acres.
It's over 4.3 or 4 acres, and 4 acres are Mechanicsburg.
I will say, if this is something that, we support and we're looking at, long-term, that this would be, part of the vision to make our community more accessible and easier to, more walkable, et cetera. I feel like to lead around and, potentially have to pay $35,500 out of our own pocket seems daunting when we can have a collaborative project across municipalities for the price of $6,000, you know what I mean? I feel like, obviously, committing to this project is not gonna be, nothing's free, right? So, I don't know, I just think it would be a good thing to contribute to, and.
I think it's also a good point to note that the funds, if the acquisition cost is less than $35,000, then within the negotiation, it could be rolled into something else.
And
correct, is that correct?
That's correct. I don't know that just to be upfront, I don't know if the railroad's pretty shrewd negotiators. I don't know that we'll get that done, but, yeah.
has there been a negotiation?
We've had meetings with them. The last time we met with them, they said make an offer. They were willing to entertain it. So, because they had just sold a property not far from this location, in Silver Spring Township, so they're open to.
And who will the 4 acres be titled to?
Well, that was kind of one of the other numbers down here, if the borough was willing to accept that property. Anything the borough isn't willing to do, basically the Friends group is going to have to step in and do that. So, find a solution to it, so.
And so the Friends group, we are a part of the Cumberland Valley Rail Trails Council. It's a nonprofit entity that's been around 20-some years, built the Cumberland Valley Rail Trails, you're familiar with that. But we've already had discussions amongst them and their board. They're willing to make an offer, to purchase the land, to hold the land, to build, the trail. We obviously want to work with the community and at least at this point, thought it might make sense for the borough to own, whether a trail gets built there or not, to own that property. I know, if the borough was even interested all along in that property, but, the trail group is a player in this. We're just not able to drive, we're not able to access the matching funds and DCNR, and so that's why it's so important to have, the borough raise match funds to acquire them.
Have you had conversation with Silver Spring to make sure that they're agreeable to Mechanicsburg Borough owning the 4 acres?
Yeah, I think they would only be interested in they've made every indication they're only interested in what's inside the township.
Right.
Which is the area between Church Road and Trindle Road.
So would that 4 acres need to be subdivided?
It currently is untitled. So, yeah, it's undeeded right of way, going back, like, we looked at the 1915 valuation maps for the railroad, it's listed as title unknown. However, whenever we applied the deeds and had it surveyed the corners, that's the remnant that's undeeded based on the parcels surrounding it, so.
Are we going to get, if we were to vote to commit $6,000, are we going to find transactional costs that drive that cost out? So if you're going to raise $35,000 total, is that going to be sufficient for acquisition as well as transactional costs?
Yeah, I mean, there would be reporting fees and that kind of thing that would go along with that.
Above and beyond the 35?
Yes, yeah.
Do you have an estimate on those fees?
It would usually be, hundreds of dollars to get something recorded like that, although there could be attorney, your solicitor, I don't know how involved it might get for your solicitor, is the thing.
They do it for free.
Well, we have, yeah, there is some remaining budget for the solicitor, but I don't know if it would be enough for them.
And there's some of the boards and nooks and crannies too that the Friends Group is willing to step in to try to cover costs in that way, or, for shares of the pie as well, so to get it done.
So, Mr. President, I echo Councilman Booth's response. I think that $6,000 seems reasonable if we're not going to get sucked into a significant amount of additional cost on top of that, especially if we acquire ownership. Manager Szewski, do you have any thoughts on this?
It's unbudgeted. We're gonna have to figure out where to take it from. That's pretty much where we're at. We did get the $5,000 from the friend. That's been added to the till. So, this is a totally new set of grants that we'd be looking at, on top of the ones that we already have with DCNR and the county.
And what does that mean? I'm
So
sorry.
that means that we'd be submitting new grant applications for this. So, we just met with Silver Spring Township this morning. They're looking at some 904 grants, which are separate from this, but, if they tie this in the way that they want to, it's gonna tie our hands on any future grants that we can look for from 902 because they wanna use the joint compost site. I wanna be careful, if we're gonna look at grant funding down the road, are we gonna have stuff tied into this that we're not gonna be able to get grant funding for something that we need to do?
So I guess my comment to this is when we're talking about a comprehensive plan, what is our vision for Mechanicsburg, and what are we willing to put forth for our future? And I'm a strong advocate for this, and I've kept quiet, but if we're talking about walkability and connectability, we don't do this now, where are we gonna be at in 10 years with this? This is a long-term project. And I think that for me, $6,000 commitment, let's figure out where we can get the money from, because this is part of what we've been discussing. This is part of our comprehensive plan. Obesity is on the rise, children don't have outdoor space, we know COVID wreaked havoc on our parks. This is something that we need to be part of. I think that this is a nice way to say, as a Borough Council, we're supporting green space and planning for the future, not reacting to today. So I think $6,000 is reasonable, and if for some reason the railroad says, yeah, we'll do it cheaper, roll it into something else. I am interested in making sure that we don't block ourselves grant-wise, but I think if we're going to do something, this is a big mark, and this is an important mark that we can put for hopefully our children, our grandchildren, Joseph's baby, like, we want to have green space and a connectability. I think if we say no to it now, it probably impedes the grant and also impedes the commitment that we have for our comprehensive plan, and I'd be disappointed.
I'd like to see, or hear some more information at the next meeting, but leave this open to action, potential action at the next meeting. And we don't know what Solicitor Cassidy has found out, do we?
I am also interested to see what Solicitor Cassidy has found out, if anything, to date on the Norfolk Southern issue. I don't know that he's had the time to tackle that.
Was that recently that he was making a?
We had asked him
Last meeting.
last meeting or the meeting prior to look into the acquisition, basically directing him to do what number one says, but without committing to an acquisition cost. So our understanding from what he said, I think, was that potentially we might be able to get a better deal, than a certain amount specified here, what the appraisal was for, but that you just don't, I don't know.
So what is our message to Silver Spring tonight? Because if they're gonna be waiting for us.
I agree with that.
I'm not opposed to the $6,000. It's a commitment. It's a commitment to spend the $6,000 should this go forward.
And I think too, Mr. President, if we commit the $6,000 and if Solicitor Cassidy is able to negotiate a better deal, then we actually have taken whatever amount is freed up, plus the grant, which doubles it, and made that available to the project in other ways.
Right, and it's money, it could be committed somewhere else if needed. But I think the important thing is to get the grant.
I think so too.
Now, in your experience, does going for a grant like this prohibit a municipality from going back to the well?
Even if you were to apply for the Cumberland County grant, that I don't know. I mean, I guess it would depend on the type of Cumberland County grant that you're applying for, but, this would be for acquisition. I'm assuming you're not looking to buy other land soon, so there might be, again, I don't want to speak for Stephanie Williams, but there might be some leeway in that if you apply for a land partnership grant in the next couple months for playground equipment or something like that, since that's sort of a different swim lane of maybe a use for their grant program, that there might not be such a, but I can't say that for sure. I mean, we can definitely look into that for you.
This grant is due in June, this is due in June. What's their funding cycle? Is it
once a year?
Yeah.
Once a year?
Yeah, and they typically announce, I believe, in September.
So we're not applying for any other grants under this?
Not at this time, no.
Okay. So not under that cycle.
And they were very encouraging to apply for that program for this use. I mean, the county is very, almost pushing sometimes. They really want to see something built or at least get to that point. I mean, we're still far away from that, but there's always little steps that need to happen one way or the other. And so they're willing to, we have to go through the hoops of applying, but they're willing to throw money at it.
And I also think of it like if I was the township supervisor at Silver Spring, if the people who are going to get a majority of the land from the acquisition are not committing the $6,000 to it, I feel like that's not a huge roadblock for the project, and I don't like that.
Councilman Martin, what are your thoughts?
So I believe that you had said that the county is questioning the borough's commitment at this point, right?
Right.
So I think that putting up the $6,000, committing to that, shows the county that we are committed to this project, that we want and support this project, and also assist in getting the grant money, correct? Because we have to be able to show the county that we do support this in order to get the grant money. So I think if we say, nah, we're not gonna give the $6,000, the county might say, well, obviously you don't have the support of your municipality, and then, so you can't have the money. And I don't think
That very well could be the case, yeah.
So we're also committing to maintaining the property indefinitely.
Let's put a pin in that, because we'll come back, that's one of the points, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know, and it's been a while since I read your memo, but that a lot of these questions that are being asked of the borough will be asked of Silver Spring as well, but there are also questions that need to be answered too to finally just wrap up our feasibility study.
Yeah.
Well, we understood that
Okay.
this needs to be completed so that you can submit your report, and then so that the funds can be
Right.
dispersed and we can get.
Correct.
waivers.
Exactly, yeah, that's exactly.
Another one that's,
Yes, yes.
Okay, so let's recap. Number one was consider authorizing borough staff to work with members of the study committee to prepare a formal offer to Norfolk Southern. And the property, the appraisal was mentioned, and then the remaining funds shown in table 3. Let's see here. This is what we said was the authority we had authorized the solicitor to work on, and we agree in principle on this, and that there's the caveat mentioned at the last meeting was that the group, the committee, follow whatever our solicitor's recommendation is as far as the offer is concerned.
Okay.
So that was the decision on number 1. Number 2, it sounds like the committee, the council is in agreement to authorize the $6,000.
Yes, I am.
So that is the agreement of council. We will take action on that this evening. Number 3, authorize the borough solicitor, assuming he has paid out of available DCNR match funds, to review the offer and potential subsequent Norfolk Southern counteroffer. This would include preparation of subsidiary agreement to clarify the property ownership, use, and maintenance between interested parties if the acquisition is successful. This, I think, goes in line. We would not have committed to doing this if we had not committed. It goes in line with number 1. If we committed to doing number 1, we're going to commit to number 3. I think that was the consensus from the meeting from the last time.
Yeah, I think that we had thought that that's already kind of happening. Like, we've already started to do it, so.
Okay.
That 1 and 3 go together, and we agree to do that. Number 4, if Norfolk Southern accepts the offer, consider taking ownership of the rail right-of-way within the borough limits, which adjoins the wastewater treatment plant, and provide easement to Cumberland County Rail Trail Council to dedicate adequate property for pathway use. So, number 4, council agreed this makes sense. And then, that we agreed to take the ownership,
I would just add to that, I know there was discussion of transferring the wastewater plant property back to an authority.
That's not
The
happening.
opposite.
It's not happening.
Comes from the authority back to the.
It might change hands. So we want to make sure, one of those options was on.
Yeah, there's nothing.
Okay, that's not happening, all right, sorry.
So, it will be in the borough's control, and the borough will maintain ownership of the wastewater treatment plant, so that transfer is not happening. Number 5, consider taking maintenance responsibility for the path within borough limits. Trail pathways to be designated constructed using grant funds. Responsibilities would include maintaining the trail surface once constructed, mowing the edge, maintaining signage. At a minimum, we would request that the borough continue to maintain the grass along the wastewater treatment plant access drive that are currently being mowed by staff. Council agreed to maintain the path and the grass. That was the consensus from the last meeting. If that still sounds correct.
Yes.
Yes.
clarification point, do we have any idea what the cost of maintenance is average per year after construction?
Yeah, there's lots of studies on that. I mean, it's typically in the neighborhood of about $5,000 a mile.
For what period of time?
Per year, if you allocate.
$5,000 a year?
Yes, that's
A mile.
Per mile.
per mile.
So how much?
So you have about a half a mile with this.
So $2,500 just for the pathway?
That would, I mean, typically the life cycle, I mean, it depends what kind of surface we put down. I mean, you could have anything from gravel to asphalt to concrete, and obviously those have longer life cycles. I mean, if you had a concrete path, it probably has a 40 or 50-year life cycle. If it's gravel, I wouldn't recommend gravel in this location because the trail's mostly in a floodplain, so anytime it would flood, it would be washed out and you'd have significant maintenance with that. But if it's asphalt, I mean, you're looking at like, you know, a 10 to 20-year life cycle, and you would be doing, just like if you had a driveway or something, if there's cracks, you need to fill those in or seal it to extend the life of the asphalt. You know, so you would be looking at, it would be similar to like, you know, your street program type thing like that.
That was not the best analogy.
Maybe not the best. I'm just speaking straight, frankly, about this, but I mean, it's asphalt just like a street, you know, so, I'm not trying to necessarily pull you into something you don't want to do, but just, I mean, something like concrete, you know, I did a lot of work in Texas where I used to live, and, you know, a lot of the trails there are concrete, and the reason that is because the life cycle is 40 or 50 years. You know, you pretty much don't have to do much to it over that life cycle. So, you know, that's something to really consider whenever we're getting into the details of design, like making something that has a long-term life cycle to it so that you don't have a lot of these costs. But even with that, you need to be, you know, if you're thinking about it on an annual budget, basically you need to be setting aside money that someday something will need to be done with it.
So we wouldn't have any say in what the path was constructed of, would we?
You would. I mean, we have a study committee at this point that meets, that would meet to talk about those kind of details. So like Roger or whoever the borough appointed would be at those meetings to talk about, you know, what that material would be. It's a lot easier to get, I just put that out there, it's a lot easier to get the grant funding during construction than to try to get grant funding for maintenance. So, you know, you want to build the best possible trail you can up front so that you're pushing those costs down the line a long way.
Would there be expectation for winter maintenance?
For winter maintenance?
Shoveling, ice melt?
That can, you know, that goes wherever the trails policy is on that. Some trails are shoveled, some aren't. So if it snows, I would anticipate this trail would probably be closed if it was snowed. That would just be one of the rules on, you know, we'd have like rules signed with that, and so.
I'm looking at our manager and wondering what is going through his head.
Multiple things. There's a private residence that's involved in this particular property that we're gonna have to provide easement and access to his property. Right now, we maintain everything that they're talking about as far as the area goes, except for the property around the back of the sewer plant that goes towards the railroad tracks. Being in a floodplain, you're right, Ben, you're not gonna do gravel, you're gonna do something more substantial. But being the high water table, asphalt's gonna be a problem because it's gonna move, freeze-fall is gonna be a big problem out through there. And it was $56,000 to do the natural playground asphalt path because they had to go down and put a decent base in because the clay that was there wouldn't support the asphalt correctly. So, and that was required for ADA. And that's another one on this that nobody's broached that subject with is this path is gonna have to be ADA required or accessible. So there's gonna be some issues come up there, probably not in the near future, but it's something we're gonna have to look at down the road. And ADA repairs can be pretty salty.
I mean, those kind of issues we would deal with in design. It would be designed to be ADA accessible, and, a trail project we're currently doing, we have about, we do the under drain, for infiltration to account for the impervious area of the trail. So we actually put stone under, it's about 2 feet of stone under the trail, so it's actually a pretty hefty cross-section of the, so, I mean, we would.
The water table's an issue out there. The water table's about 6 to 8 inches below surface.
Right.
Through there, down along the creek there. That's the problem with Church Road. That's why Church Road, we can't keep paving on it. So
Right.
there's issues out there with that.
Yeah, I mean, so those are issues you have to deal with in the detailed design.
Yep.
We're not in the design phase yet.
Right.
Changes are unfit.
Construction of trails happens too with grants as well. It's not on either a trail group or a municipality to fund those. So I'm sure I'm stating the obvious, but I just want to make sure I'm stating it, that's all.
Well, that's one reason we need the feasibility.
Right.
Right. So, number 5, council has agreed to maintain the path and the grass, and do you have any other questions for that, answer your question, Councilman Beard?
Yeah, I don't think I have any questions at this point. Thank you, though. Appreciate it.
Number 6, note, although no action is currently requested, a rail crossing would be required to ultimately connect the pathway with Soldiers and Sailors Memorial Park and Pleasant View Park. This will require a pedestrian bridge under Norfolk Southern design guidelines. So no action is requested at this time, but we suggest that at the time such bridge is required, that you consult the council at that particular time.
Okay.
Because that is also an expense and something that we would have to maintain, but something that is obviously much further down the road. So,
Correct.
if you're not looking for action from us, that's we suggest that you ask the council at that time.
Gotcha. Yeah, we were just putting out for your information purposes that we're not gonna be able to do an at-grade crossing to get to Soldiers and Sailors, at least not with the current Norfolk Southern guidelines, so.
Why did you feel it was important to bring that to our attention now?
Just on the table, see,
What's the bad news?
That is the bad, that is potentially the bad news, but, well, I mean, the way I would address that is to say that, this is 1.25 miles of a trail. If that bridge is never built, I think it's worth doing, like to have 1.25 miles going from that point south to the turnpike. That's another big crossing that may or may not ever happen someday, but hopefully will. But I think having over 1 mile of a trail in Mechanicsburg and Silver Spring Township and Monroe Township is something that the residents around it can use, and it's useful for those residents regardless of whether that bridge ever gets built. So, to put a dollar amount on that bridge would be, $750,000 probably, and you would have to inspect it. It would be, it would be really heavy duty. We would be looking at concrete bridge or weathering steel for that would have, 50 to 100 year life cycle to it. But it would require inspections on like a 5-year basis until if something was found, if there was a deficiency was found, then you would have to start doing like annual inspections or biannual inspections as to keep track of what was happening with that until it had to be repaired.
I love walking on good trails, but can you help me understand this a little bit? In the world of trails, is 1.5 miles a big deal?
It's 1.5 miles that somebody else isn't walking on a daily basis, because they are now. Like, if I could go out of my house and walk 1.5 miles on a nice trail, rather than on the bumpy, trippy sidewalks in town, I would much rather walk on a 1.25 mile trail.
So I understand that. I guess my thought is very few residents are going to be able to walk out their front or back door and step on the trail. So you're going to have to travel to the trail and then walk on the trail, much like I walk to Soldiers and Sailors Park now.
Right.
But I'm asking very sincerely, is it a big deal? You said 1.25 miles, of which this is going to be 0.5 mile.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, I'm biased, but I mean, around the state, when you see trails getting built, they're built generally in these small little chunks, and particularly during the pandemic, I mean, those small little chunks were almost overwhelmed with people just accessing them in different, either by driving to them or walking out their door. This is where active transportation plans come in really great use, because you can connect other means to get people to walk to a trail like this in the future. But also, in terms of being a piece of a trail that, hopefully one day will be much larger, it's always a great way, too, to get people to set foot on 100 yards of a trail, and to either get them to be comfortable with the trail, to experience the trail, and to want more, to keep that trail moving forward. So it's a great way to just get something built to continue that momentum, let alone the health and, economic impacts.
And there's a lot of statistics that say that the more trails you have, the longer life expectancy, the higher quality of life. So I think for us, yeah, right? Look at you and your fit body. So, those are the things that I think we need to be looking at long term, is how can we give back to our citizens to have a better quality of life? And a trail is key to that. And I think that you're right, like you get a chunk, and we hope that in 5 years we get another chunk and we connect it, and it goes with everything that we're talking about as a council.
So the bridge would be a similar project to that of the one in Shippensburg. I know it's a little bit different situation, but that big one that was put over to connect like the university to that park right next door.
That's like on Britain Road or something like that.
Yeah.
And so the Cumberland Valley Rail Sales Council played a huge part, if not the biggest part, in applying for those. I think they got federal grants for that one, because the Cumberland Valley Rail Trail is a national trail system. And so they are familiar and comfortable with going through a lot of those big hoops with big PennDOT grants and federal highway grants to build the massive ones, like that this bridge would be, and a tunnel and the turnpike, and all these other big things that this trail someday may have.
So the odds of us, this is probably the question everybody wants to ask, but the odds of us putting the devil in our own are very unlikely.
Yes.
Okay.
What was it for?
Well, I know, but nobody asked the question, so.
I think Councilman Booker was talking about raising the taxes.
Why doesn't it meet the Norfolk Southern at-grade crossing requirement?
They just want to get rid of at-grade crossings in general, so they wouldn't permit a new one. Like if we were able to get to one of the existing street crossings, which would be very difficult because of the wetlands and the creek and everything else that are there, like going up to Mulberry Drive or coming down to Washington Street, which would be a long way out of the way of the trail, but they just don't want just from a liability standpoint, they don't like crossings.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want people.
Yeah, they're limited now. I mean, that's why I think Arch Street was closed. The Arch Street crossing was closed. They don't like the baseball team crossing on Byers Alley either. The Norfolk Southern doesn't. So the baseball team walks from the high school down to the baseball field, and they cross at Byers Alley, and they cross the railroad tracks there, and Norfolk Southern does not like them doing that. So, and there's no, like you said, Mulberry Drive, there's no real pedestrian way to get out Mulberry Drive to do the crossing there. The closest you would have, the best you would have would be Washington Street, get into the park. And like you said, that's you're walking along Trindle, basically, is what you're in, and then Main Street. So, this is a very, I think it's a very long term, the railroad crossing is a very long term plan down the road. I think the turnpike one is too. I've worked with the turnpike there. They can dig their heels in every bit as much as what Norfolk Southern can at times. So, well, there's two sticking points.
Did you just say usually walking down Trindle to Main Street to Washington?
Yeah, you just walk down Trindle, yeah,
right.
From where they're coming out on Trindle, coming down Trindle, there is a berm there, but there's not a real
it's not a good one.
Pedestrian.
But that might be a less expensive option to address that. because the walk on Main Street is not bad, the walk down Washington is not bad. Anyway, this is something for the future, right?
Right.
And they don't want action on it now anyway.
Yeah, if we can get a core trail started, that, you know, start to answer some of these questions about like who's gonna maintain things and how it's gonna work, so.
So, okay. Going back to
Question one.
question one.
I think that was all.
Back to what's on the agenda. We exceeded our limit for discussion before we have a motion. So do we have a motion for the following items? On number one, to agree in principle, having provided direction to the solicitor and, condition on the solicitor's recommendation. Number two, agree to the $6,000. Number three, agree in principle contingent on number one outcome and the solicitor's recommendation. Number four, agree to the ownership. And number five, agree to maintain the paths and grass.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I'll second it.
Mr. makes the motion. Mr. Cooper seconds, but thank you for your participation, Mr. Anthony. That you're still there.
Point of discussion, Mr. President.
Yeah, now discussion.
Does it make sense to make it conditional on Silver Spring Committee their money as well?
I feel like that's lessens our message. Yeah. Like,
I think we're committing 6 and we're not committing more, so if they didn't commit, then they would have to come back to us, so.
let's not muddy the water.
Does that make sense?
Well, not really.
Is there a reason to ask for the condition?
So if Norfolk Southern comes back to just 35 and Silver Spring doesn't commit their 6, then we're 6 short, we're actually 12 short at that point. Yet our 6 is still going. So I think, to me, it makes more sense to say that our 6 is conditional upon Silver Spring committing their 6, and so the county can do their 6.
But we wouldn't be able to purchase because we wouldn't have it, so the deal would be null, correct?
Right,
Yeah, we still voted to. It's not just for acquisition.
Yes, but we wouldn't be able to move forward because we wouldn't have the amount that would be needed to move forward with that, with even just acquisition, if it came back. Do you know what I mean?
My fiscal manager says, inside of me, says we make it conditional on the other 2 parties committing to their portion as well. I don't think that lessens our message. I think it just says that we're being fiscally responsible. But I'm going to be supportive of the project either way, along with my fellow council people. I just think that we want to make sure that we have the support, the financial support of the other 2 organizations as well, so. And they want to make sure they have our support.
I mean, I don't think, so if Silver Springs doesn't commit to 6,000 and the acquisition doesn't go through because we don't have the money, our $6,000 isn't going anywhere.
I don't know that that's true. It could be redirected.
At the same time, you know, if we don't get the grant and it still costs us $35,000, that's still more than $12,000.
I agree, yeah.
So
I'm fine committing up to 6,000.
okay.
I mean, 6 grand wouldn't be leaving, I mean, the borough would be the one in the offer, at least in the scenario we're presenting. So, I mean, in terms of it being redirected, it wouldn't be redirected unless the borough wanted to redirect it. I don't know if that makes it.
I'm just not hearing that in the motion.
Okay.
How would you like to amend your motion? For number 2, $6,000, to approve $6,000 contingent on
The acquisition of the land.
the acquisition.
And the acquisition of land,
Contingent on the
yeah.
acquisition.
I will amend it to that.
Oh, second.
Makes sense.
She, that is, yes.
I'm not gonna go through all that.
Seriously, so.
But the, number 2 is agree to authorize $6,000 contingent on, the acquisition of the land and an agreed upon offer between Norfolk Southern and, the committee.
Okay.
Based on the solicitor's recommendation. Okay.
And he comes back next week and kiboshes the whole thing, right?
I think.
We'll see what
It
might
has to be a full solution.
Quickly call the question.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
The Councilman Anthony, vote.
Councilman Anthony, what was your?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your work.
May I just steal 2 minutes, is that okay? I just had an update, a real exciting update about the trail.
Sure.
It doesn't impact what you all just talked about, but. The whole time I was thinking, should I say this, I don't want to confuse things much further, but, so, the Friends Group and the Current Road Trails Council has a really exciting, partnership moving forward now. I don't know how many of you are familiar with, the September 11th National Memorial Trail. Last year, the 9/11 National Memorial Trail was signed, federal legislation. It passed the House and Senate unanimously. I think it was like 143-0, signed by President Biden to designate a trail that would link the Pentagon to Flight 93 to New York. And yeah,
That's cool.
and in the middle of this triangle, there's sort of it's all connecting historic sites, but in the middle of that is this little historic trail that runs from Harrisburg, Mechanicsburg, Carlisle, Shippensburg, Chambersburg, goes to Gettysburg, York, and then up along the river to Lancaster, back to Harrisburg. And so what I did here, so I show you, so this trail, you'll see there's green and red, and the green sections are where this trail is now. You can go out and find the maps and ride it, but where it's green, it's on a off-road dedicated trail. Red is all on-road. Their goal is to get all of those red sections off-road. And so partnering with us and the Cumberland Valley Rail Trail Council, who are still trying to inch their way towards Carlisle, they're going to partner with trail organizations all over the country to try to get dedicated off-road trails. So I created here's the national map, little put a box that kind of shows you where Mechanicsburg is in this section. And on the back here, I just zoomed in on Mechanicsburg Borough, showing where the 9/11 trail currently is on its on-road alignment, kind of coming up Williams Grove Road and then going down Simpson Ferry towards Harrisburg. I also indicated where the proposed Greenway corridor is. You'll see it all on here, and then you'll see the portion that we just talked about trying to acquire. And then, again, I made sure it was clear, this is representation, illustration only of where maybe connections in the future, if the Greenway gets to Soldier and Sailors Park, which is fitting for the 9/11 trail to go to, where maybe a non-street route might go through town to get back on Simpson Ferry to continue its way, making sure that it passes by some of the historic sites in town and the commercial core, which would be huge. And then there's also a press release talking about the establishment of the National Trail, and just last month, Pennsylvania designated the 9/11 Trail as a major greenway, which means that Pennsylvania is now willing and ready to throw some serious funds at closing the gaps and helping this trail, be a physical reality.
Will this be part of the national park system?
It's not part of the national park system, but it will connect national park units.
Okay. Won't be under their jurisdiction or?
No, I don't really, off the top of my head, I'm not sure who actually manages the National Trail, program. But they've already, so the 9/11 Trail Group, I met with them last week.
Thank you.
They've actually already worked out with PennDOT to have signs that PennDOT approved to be along roadways and along their route. And so they have a lot of communities to work with, but eventually they will make their way to all of them and try to figure out nice locations for these 9/11 trail Well, if you've ever driven on Lincoln Highway, you've kind of seen those signs, and that's something, if you envision something like that, just to let people know as they're biking or driving, that this is part of the 9/11 trail. So it also means that there's a lot more attention, and so PennDOT is obviously very supportive of trying to figure out how to make this a reality too. The Turnpike Commission has also been very supportive of trying to figure out where this trail interacts to make their impact less on it, so hopefully that will help us out in the future when we need to have those talks about a potential tunnel. Norfolk Southern actually has been very supportive of where 9/11 crosses and interacts with with their railroads in the eastern part of the state. Of course, in the southeast, there's a huge, dense network of trail systems there around Philadelphia that impact all kinds of highways and railroads. So yeah, it's really exciting, and yeah.
I have a question.
Sure.
So according to this map, I could actually get on my bike in Washington DC and ride it all the way to Pittsburgh and not be on a road?
Yeah, so that green section there,
That is incredible.
This is from DC to, it's not on the map, but Cumberland, Maryland, just west of Hagerstown. It's
Yeah.
the C&O Canal, and if you're in C&O, you pick up the Great Allegheny Passage, which is a rail trail that runs to Pittsburgh. Actually, it goes right to the point in downtown Pittsburgh where the fountain is. And that's complete, that's done, yeah.
People in Pittsburgh are super pumped about it.
There are communities along the Gap Trail, that were dead in the water when steel and coal died in western Pennsylvania, and they rebirthed as trail towns. There's actually, the trail town movement actually started in southwestern Pennsylvania with the Gap Trail. Towns like West Newton, Connellsville, they have whole economies that just are catering to people that camp along these trails that
Sure,
bike
like
along
Appalachian Trail, right?
Right, yeah, so,
Wow.
I don't want to guarantee that's going to happen right away here for Mechanicsburg, but you have this whole potential to tap into that, so.
Rich is what I just.
I did not say that, but I mean, to be on a trail like that is a huge honor, and to show off some of Mechanicsburg's history and historic sites, so. So I'm sure you're aware, I'm sure there's a lot of communities that aren't. And the county commissioners, apparently every county that this trail goes through in all the states, this organization got every county to essentially give a resolution of support, so the Cumberland County Commissioners have already given their thumbs up to it, which I did not realize until I just was told that. So that's great for us too, especially when we want to apply for county grants, we can sprinkle in the, hey, we're now part of the 9/11 system too, so.
That's awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so, it's still me, and I think we're going to give an update on the slides, the renovation of the slides, right? We're done with that. Okay, then.
Unless you have anything to add?
No, I have my orders here, we'll alter the,
Quick question on the pool, since we're on that. The quote, you said there was a quote for cutting concrete if needed,
yeah, it's $2,900.
$2,900, and that was an outside contractor, correct?
Yeah, it was pro cut.
Okay, and they had no issues with, I know you raised questions about whether there be issues about substructure.
We'll mark it as best we can, they'll cut it, we'll take responsibility for fixing whatever they cut.
And then the leak detector,
The leak detector is leak detection incorporated out of York, around York. They have two different ways they want to do it. Last year they told CH they wanted to do it with the pool filled and swimmable, but it was after the season and when they could get up here and we couldn't keep the chlorine in it that long. So we would have to buy new truckloads of chlorine to keep it swimmable. So they can do it when it's drained, which it is now, and they can do some air testing to see what's going on. They can get close to it. They can't tell us exactly where the pinpoint, they can't pinpoint it exactly, but they can get very close to where it is. So we're going to hold off on cutting concrete until we have them come in and take a look at it.
and the cost for that is going to be? Just right on the front of that.
I don't have email open right now, or I could give you that number, so. It was $625 for the first 2.5 hours, and that includes the equipment setup plus the liability cost that's involved with the equipment setup, and then it's $200 for the next 2 hours after that.
Okay, that's fine. And then one quick question, I want to clarify, and then I'm done. I heard you say at the Parks and Rec meeting that we were losing 2,000 gallons per day.
Yeah.
is that an accurate
It was
number?
around 2,000 gallons a day, some days it was more, some days it was less. When it was raining, we had it turned off. It was averaging around, most of the high point days were 2,000 gallons a day, when most people were at the pool, because we had to keep the water running constantly to fill in the filter pit. Yeah, and we'll be getting a bill from Suez for a grand total last year of the park of 882,000 gallons of water that the meter apparently never read.
So we're talking about a 60,000 gallon per month leak.
About that, yeah.
And do you have any idea what that equates to in terms of dollars?
Around, well, the bill that we're gonna get for the 800,000 is about $6,000. So,
Thank you.
monetary wise, it's not bad,
It's true.
Well,
but.
I don't know that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of money. Okay, thank you, sir.
Yep.
Okay, I'm finished now.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Councilwoman Martin. Personnel Committee,
We are meeting on Thursday,
Mr. Cooper, are you good with Thursday?
That was a question?
so we have a question.
I will do my best to be there.
Alright.
What time works for you?
I will do my best to be there.
Do you want to do it?
No, we'll make it happen.
Okay.
Sure.
6:30.
Okay.
6:30?
What kind of pizza do you have?
What kind of pizza?
I'm good. I'm good, thank you.
Can I go? No, you are not committed. Your session is way long. You're right, I owe you guys pizza.
No, that's just, okay. No, that's just a committee.
All right, the committee, and that's an executive session, so we're not out.
Right.
Okay. Citizens comment, do we have any citizens comment? Seeing none. Moving on to any other business, I would like council to humor me in, I have a little report prepared on, it's been 100 days since this council was sworn in, and Vice President Anthony and I took over as council president and council vice president. I just wanted to go through some of the accomplishments we've made in the first 100 days. Council passed an operations and procedures policy for the first time, formalizing how council conducts business and interacts with the position of the manager and staff. The new agenda format was instituted, increasing transparency with the public by including links to the council packet documents. The new meeting format with a consent agenda was adopted, as well as a committee work session format. Council requested and instituted a treasurer's report, which we thank the treasurer for, and we commend her for the job she's doing on that. Passed Resolution 02-2022 opposing State House redistricting. Myself and Councilman Agerton testified at the House Majority Policy Committee hearing on State House redistricting and presented the resolution that was passed by Council. The borough was later united and reincorporated together into the 88th district. Council passed Ordinance 1074, updating the borough code relating to the borough manager's powers and duties on hiring and firing of personnel. Council approved goals for each quarter of 2021 for the borough manager. Council approved Revise as the new website contractor, finalizing a process that took all of last year, and we sped it up for the first 3 months of this year, and we approved a new website contractor. Hopefully we'll have a new website by the end of the second quarter. The emergency operations plan was updated as prepared by EMC Wardle. Borough Council updated our mask policy for the borough and for Borough Council. Pool agreement was updated and approved. We terminated the agreement to transfer sanitary sewer assets to the authority and returned operational control to council. We approved the transfer of stormwater assets to the authority, consummating the transfer of assets agreement that was signed in 2019. Approved a lease agreement with the authority for stormwater assets, for which the authority took action on last night and conditionally approved. Received an updated presentation of the comprehensive plan from EPD. Started the process for borrowing money to fund long-term plan for paving and infrastructure. Continued discussion on pedestrian safety, walkability, and traffic concerns, and proposed application to Walkworks for grant funding for an active transportation plan and or Vision Zero policy, which we did tonight. Pool feasibility study, we gave direction on and approved in preparation for a DCMR grant. And we made a decision tonight on the South Mountain Charlie Greenway request. So it's been a busy 100 days. And thank you all for your patience and hard work during this time, and we'll continue moving things forward. With that, let's go around. Was there any other business?
I met with Evercore today. Laura was very helpful. They provide municipal services. To that, there is a section in the Borough Code that I'm questioning Mike Cassidy on. Councilman Booker, I included him on the email, along with a brochure of what they provide. So they're going to talk, they're going to formulate a plan, they're going to come back to us and give us a cost estimate as to what it would cost. That would include street sweeping, a lot of other stuff that we're not getting the manpower to do. We could actually maybe have that outsourced. So they just bought a sweeper firm in Carlisle. Last week they finalized the acquisition of them, so they will have stuff in the area. They're not going to be bringing it all the way from Columbia.
That's great.
Yep.
I'm glad I forwarded.
As we get more of that, I will give it to Mr. Booker's committee, and we can keep moving forward with that.
That's very good.
Yep.
I have nothing.
Okay, thank you.
Just big thanks to our borough staff for being at Earth Day. Their demonstration was awesome, and a big thanks. I know that they're going to be taking down some compost to help with the green space and the turf. No, they're not.
They turned it down.
Oh, they did?
Yes, DMP turned it down.
When did they turn it down?
Today.
Okay, well, thank you for the offer of being able to help with that. It was a great event, and I think that we look forward to having many more outdoor events. I know we have a downtown partnership that we're very happy to have that support.
Oh, by the way, the blue light was on when you were talking to Justin. You were being recorded, so.
But hey, listen, I say what I say. It's fun. I'm on the record all the time.
I have nothing.
Just thanks to Borough Council leadership, President Miller, Vice President Anthony, for a very successful first 100 days. It feels good to be a part of the group.
Thank you.
I will follow up with Mr. Cassidy about anything we discussed.
Thank you.